Lucky Boys Podcast.
Where do you think people get these notions that there is something in these vaccines? The leading conspiracy or ideas, whoever, depending on who you ask, but there's a microchip in it, and there's some type of metals, and that's become wildly popular, and that's causing a lot of people to be hesitant. I mean, whether we want to go, and brush it off, that's just stupid people conspiracy. Well, let me tell you, because of those, I guess, rumors, there are a good portion of human society that refuses to take the vaccine because of that.
Why do they exist?
Where do you think that comes from?
Fear of the unknown. They're afraid. You have to consider the fact that we just went through a lockdown pandemic, something that's never happened in anyone's lifetimes, unless you were around in 1918 Spanish flu, or you were there for SARS in Asia. Nothing that's worldwide since 1918. To have a worldwide lockdown, to go through something that's so unknown and fearful, where you have to lock down and prevent from socializing, and you feel like your youth or your year was stolen from you. And not only that, you don't have the opportunity to declare yourself as an individual because you're doing what everyone else is doing, and you're being told what to do. That makes it worse than the fact being told what to do. Yeah. In a place where you thought you have all this freedom, of course you're going to be unsure and not know what you're locking down for. And that unknown is a huge source of that fear. Now, in that fear, what do you then do? You do a lot of things that you won't normally do if you're in a good place. When you're in a vulnerable place, you start to believe things in order to justify your doubts. Because we were locking down, not because we saw tanks rolling down the street from somebody invading our country. We're not locking down because we see a giant tsunami come in and destroying our homes, or a giant forest fire. It's an invisible enemy. We don't know what goes on behind the walls of a hospital or an emergency room. So as a result, because we don't know what we're locking down for, we feel insignificant. We feel powerless. We feel emasculated, if you want to think it like that. We feel fragile. We feel like there's something out there. We start to doubt things because it's not tangible. And as a result, you start to doubt anything given by an authority figure. And once you start posting, or once you start having confirmation bias of your doubts by some person who makes up a rumor, you start to feel validated in a way that you haven't been during the lockdown. You finally see someone else sees you. Your doubts become verified and valid, even if it may be illogical, because emotions, right? Emotions are not supposed to be logical. Your emotions suddenly are validated by a piece of writing or prose by a complete stranger. And if you repost that, other people feel the same way. Are going to give you likes and going to repost you. And then all of a sudden you become more validated. And then you feel like you get your 15 minutes of fame, even if it's for the wrong reasons. You now have this individuality back again. And as a result, from that fear, you get sucked in. Because who cares if it's inaccurate or accurate? I feel good. This endorphin hit, this drug rush from getting these likes and being seen in a year when I was told to lock down and not socialize. All of a sudden, my socializing, all these people, amazing people from around the world who thinks the same way I do. I feel seen, and then it just becomes a long, Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole where you get sucked in, and that's why things like. I'm not going to say their names because I don't want to validate it, but, post-election drama and craziness where people understandably do things out of fear. And as a result, they don't want to leave because that's what drug addiction is like, the endorphin rush. People know heroin is bad for you. People know that cocaine is bad for you if you do too much of it. But you do it anyway because it's just an emotional thing that you can't pull away from. You could say that about toxic relationships. You can say that about toxic masculinity or whatever. That's just like this. I know it's wrong, but I'm going to do it anyway because it makes me feel good. It doesn't make it right. You're actually hurting other people. But in the individual sense, it's like, what difference does it make anyway? I'm just one person. It does add up. And that's why it exists.
I didn't look at it that deeply in terms of endorphin hits and people continuing to subscribe to this. People have been locked up for so long that they're just looking for any belief system to feel like they're back in control. I find that fascinating. I do think there's another camp that may not be just educated enough about this, where they're
looking for answers,
where there's no trust between themselves and government, or themselves and the medical community,
or even historically they've been where the government did
Oh, yeah, that's-
vaccinations towards the African American community.
Absolutely. Tuskegee,
Yeah,
Henrietta
Tuskegee.
Lacks. No, that's very valid, and I totally validate that reason. I'm not black, so I will never be able to understand what they go through, but I do know about the bioethics of that and why they would distrust. And definitely that makes total sense. But my concern with that is they're giving into exactly to the racist system that was designed to make them do that. Do you understand?
Can you elaborate further on that?
That a system that created Tuskegee, that allowed for Tuskegee syphilis experiments to exist, and a society that allows for Henrietta Lacks to be exploited, is the same very system designed to make a whole community now distrust things that might actually save their lives. That's the whole point, to create that lack of thereof, so that the people who should be getting vaccines because they're so underserved in terms of health now distrust it. But can you imagine that's exactly what a racist system is designed to do, to make you shoot yourself in the foot so you'll never get ahead, that you always will perpetuate generations and generations of being underserved in terms of health and access?
So they want to keep them ignorant?
That's my issue with the system. It's designed, it's doing exactly how it's designed. A system allowed for Tuskegee syphilis experiments to exist. That's horrific. But that's the same kind of system that exists now, where it's just like, great, look, they don't want to get the vaccine, so they're just shooting themselves in the foot, so they'll never get ahead. And I'm not saying there's one person out there that would consciously believe this, but the system was designed to create a have and have not. It was designed to create privilege and people who lack privilege. What better way to create a lack of privilege than have yourself be your own enemy? To have a circular firing squad to hold your community back by saying, I don't trust the vaccine because of Tuskegee. Valid reason, but the behavior is actually hurting your own community because the community needs to get vaccinated, but you're deciding not to. Of course, the status quo that profits from a privileged and non-privileged system of racism is going to benefit, only stands to benefit from that. Actually, the work is being done for them. In the same way as divide and conquer when it comes to apartheid. You have, racists fighting amongst each other rather than working together because they all distrust each other.
Fight against the real enemy.
And the status quo maintains its power. That's what I have the concerns where, it's designed. I mean, the whole idea of how people make money is to create a system where some people have it and some people don't. If everyone had everything, everyone was all equally healthy, if everyone had equal, positive body images of themselves, the entire industries would fall. You will make no profit if everyone was hunky-dory, happy, and feeling good about themselves and feeling they have everything.
So in a sense, money does make the world go around, but perhaps in the wrong way.
It's not about what you do; it's how you do it. It's not, it's not about the money itself. It's how is money being made and used. That can be evil.
Right. Correct.
You can use it for good, but most people stand.
It's what you do with the tool.
Some people stand to get rich quick by cutting some corners, and sometimes that cutting those corners are actually human lives.